Welcome to my video on how to play Blue Bossa. Now, Blue Bossa is clearly a bossa written by K Dorham, recorded in 1963. We've chosen a bossa because we haven't done one yet, and the purpose of these how-to videos is to teach you how to play piano. So a bossa will be great. It'll get us to show a few other things like playing in straight eights, for instance, or some of the voicings here, of course, are quite rich and full. They're called rootless voicings. And that brings us to my first go takeaway, shall we say, from these lessons. The first thing is learn stuff around all 12. Now there's some great rootless voicings in this. See if you can get into other keys. I'll help you later on with that, but think that through. Learn stuff around all 12. The other takeaway is the wonders of repetition, the usefulness of repetition and why we need it. Now there's some great work by an Australian music educator called Michael Griffin. He's written some good books. I'll put some links, and explain scientifically why and how repetition works in our practice and how that gets it into our hands. We have to get all our parts really so we can't get them wrong, not just so as we can get them right. So he explains how the repetition works and how you can speed that process up for you. It's a great thing to do. I'll repeat a bit in this video, but I clearly can't do all the repeats necessary. The video will be too long. Okay, so those are the takeaways from this lesson. Now go and
because there's lots of ways of playing these things, and we're not doing a note by note type of thing. We're talking about the overall, like a piano lesson, like you would get at a piano lesson of how to play Blue Bossa. So here we go. Now the first thing we do with a tune, overall, big picture. You start by getting the big picture. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at Blue Bossa. Now I know I'm reaching for stuff that probably isn't on the screen, but I will put it up there, and it'll be slightly different from mine, but there you are. It'll be up there. I'll put that up there, and a few other things. So anyway, Blue Bossa, 16-bar tune, typical jazz tune. You know, head changes, and you get your variety through just a variation type thing. Keep coming back at the head, and we're going to just mess with that a little, make it a little bit more exciting. But that's what it is. So it's 16-bar tune. It's in the key of C minor. And it's in 4/4, even though we're going to take it into a slightly 2/2 thing. It is also a bossa. It's written by K Dorham, and it was released in 1963. Not that that's going to help us necessarily play it, but it's good to know these things, know who put the effort in to make this tune. Okay, so we scan out, we have a good look at it, and we've got a quick breakdown. Now, part of the breakdown of it is the two keys. C minor, it slips into D flat major over bars 9 through 12, and then back into C minor. So that's pretty much it. Now, the head is actually made up of sequences. So rather than talk to you about that in the overall, we'll talk to you straight into the head. Now, the head is this idea, right? It's okay. Now that is your musical idea. Try and get it shaped this way. You might notice. Always try to play it musically. That's the best way to play it. Now that is a sequence because it's done again. Just lower. Now sequences we've talked about before, so I'm assuming you know that, but a sequence is really just the same musical idea repeated higher or lower. Now it's going to be done again now in D flat major. Now notice that end part is different from the others. This is a very common compositional tool. I've seen it used a lot in a lot of famous composers in all genres, pop, jazz and classical. Is have your idea, do some kind of repeat on it. Might even be just an ostinato. We'll deal with that in a minute. Ostinato is repeating exactly the same thing, but on the third time, change it to give interest to your audience. Now this is exactly what he's done. And now we change. But he's got real clever here with this because he's also turned that into a little 3 repeat thing by taking that idea and repeating it again and then repeating it slightly differently. There we have the whole tune. Now that little last bit I was talking about with the sort of a 3-repeat ostinato at the end. It's a little bit on the obscure side, but when you compose, mess with stuff in that way. It doesn't have to be perfectly ostinato or perfectly sequenced, but messing with those two ideas can make for some good ideas. Okay, that's pretty good on there. Just before we go on to the changes, I wish to discuss a music educator called Michael Griffin. I will leave his name in the links, I believe. If you read his books on learning music, it'll really show you the importance of repetition. I suggest you read him because I found him quite changing in the way I practiced and really helpful, right? And this is all about being helpful to pianists, so go and read his book, it's good. It talks about how often you've got to repeat things. Do not underestimate how many times you're going to have to play. Oh, sorry. Oh, not that either. Right. Now, see how many times I had to play it to get it right? Ugh. And I've been playing this for ages because I played it for ages before I put it on the channel. The other thing to do, of course, is in the listening, is go and have a look at the versions I've put on. 2 different versions on the same tune. I will slip one of those cards into this video. You can click on that link there. Or perhaps just go to my second to latest video. Okay, so play it a lot. Now let's talk about the chord changes. Once you've played that hit over and over again, get sick of it and then play it some more. Let's look at the changes. Now we know our changes are C minor 7 to F minor 7 for the first 4. So we're going to use some nice rootless voicings. I know they haven't been explained to you yet, right? But, oops, I'm going to go over that way. Here's what they sound like. And you don't really have to know about them just yet to start using them and getting a bit of variety. So these are called rootless voicings. You notice I'm doing this as a C minor 7 chord, but it's got no C minor in it. And I'm doing this as an F minor 7 chord, but it's got no F. Perfectly okay. It's fulfilling the role. Now for the next group, which is now going from bars 5 through to 8, we've got these voicings here, which is D minor 7 flat 5, G7 alt, as I've called it, which your 5 chord of a minor 2-5-1 can always be an alt. And then I'm going back to that for the C minor 7. You could go down to that, and you'll probably find I use both when I play fast. Alright, so that's for your bars 5 through 8. Now, bars 9 through 12 is when you shift into D flat major. So here's some nice 2-5-1s, rootless 2-5-1s. Have a listen to them with the root. They sound really pretty. Right? And I'll give you those voices to get used to use them. You can learn them around all 12 if you like. I will do a video showing you how to work them out easily. But at the moment, just get used to using them. They're really lovely to use. And then we go back to the other ones for the end of the tune, which is back to the D minor 7 flat 5, to the G7, to the C minor 7 5. And then, now often you can get something out of the, what do you call it, the turnaround, to actually create interest for you as a little kernel for your arrangement. That wasn't the one I used, but keep that in mind. Yeah, just mess around with these things. The more you mess around with them, the more you get ideas that are going to be useful to you. Now, that's the voicings. I want to play a little bit with the idea of substitutions with you. So when we go through bars 5 through 8, instead of doing our 2-5-1 and C minor 7, we can go, hey, let's give it a lift and do a 2-5-1 in the relative major. Remember, that is E flat major. So 2-5-1 and that is. So when you're soloing, just use E flat major, which you'll be in anyway. And it just gives a lift. It's lovely to use a few little different chord changes. It can make your whole arrangement go into different places. And when you're improvising, it can just take you somewhere completely different. It can be a bit scary, but it's a lot of fun. Okay, that's the substitution. Now we're going to talk soloing tools. Soloing tools. I tend to talk scales because that gives you an overall tool, but do remember there are things that can come out of scales, like arpeggios, for instance. That's all out of the C minor arpeggio. So I tend to call them derivatives, which is like your arpeggios and your pentatonics. I will be talking more about arpeggios and pentatonics, but at the moment, let's just get a bit of a safety net going with a few things that are going to work. Now, over the most of this tune, i.e. the whole lot, except for bars 9 through 12, which is your D flat major section, C minor is going to be fine. And we're going to use pure minor. Now, I know you possibly don't know how to play the minor scales, but I do have all the majors, and to find any of its minors, you just go down a third to get the minor. Now, so all C minor is this, which is just E flat major played starting on the C, which is the 6th or the minor third below the root note. Remember that minor third thing, guys. That's a really useful thing. It cuts both ways. Okay, again, we'll have videos particularly relating to those subjects. This is more Blue Bossa and getting a piano lesson in about Blue Bossa. So we've got C minor, you can play that now. We need to create a little bit of interest, and we're not going to get it by going pure minor, it's too sweet. So, get that? Yeah. Ain't that pretty? No, it's not, but that's why we need it. That's the raised 7th. Got a cough, sorry. I don't know why I turned away. I've got a loud mic on, but there you go. So harmonic minor is good, and of course everyone's favourite, the jazz minor. Perhaps not everyone's favourite, but it is a good one. That gives us the raised 6th and the raised 7th, which means over this whole thing we've got this flexibility between these two notes and these two notes, and really feel free to interchange and swap and explore. Explore's the biggie. What are you going to get out of those shifts and everything that's going to make interest for your story? Okay, and any of the derivatives that you can do of that, like for instance C minor 7 or C minor major 7, all of those fit into that C minor scale. The numbers work. Okay, one other one in there that you might consider just for a bit of fun is C blues. It does actually work. Okay, so C blues is 1, flat 3, 4, flat 5, 5, flat 7, C. C, E flat, F, G flat, G, B flat, C. Also useful in there. I did find, however, when we go to the D flat major, which is your only other section, D flat major is the best. I didn't find D flat blues worked very nicely in there, but any of the derivatives, like your different arpeggios and that sort of stuff, will be fine. Okay, so that's a nice, there's a little uplifting part going up to the major. That's very much an uplifting. So give it an uplift in your solo, in your story. Okay. Now, a couple of slightly trickier ones, and this is for your minor 251s. I know we haven't gone through minor 251 progressions, but this is useful to know, and I will recap this again. But for this particular tune, we have a minor 7 flat 5 chord, which is the 2. On minor 7 flat 5 chords, sometimes referred to as half diminished, you can play the jazz minor off the flat 3, right? So the flat 3 of this chord is the F, so the jazz minor, F jazz minor, have a listen. I particularly like major 7s and arpeggios, preference, but anyway, that works, okay? So that's something to take. You can learn that around all 12 for all half diminished chords. Okay, the next one is alt chord. The dominant chord in a 251 that's a jazz minor, it's a minor, sorry, can be alt. Often not put in the chart. In fact, in my chart, I don't think it is at all. No. No, but yeah, it can be. And so therefore, it is actually implying another scale. It's the scale, the jazz minor of a semitone above. So the key, the chord is G, therefore the jazz minor is A flat jazz minor. Have a listen. So over this tune, it's really nice to do. So other sounds that you can use, other colours that you can use. All right, moving along. last section to deal with is the arrangement. Okay, so you can learn all this stuff, but you want to go a little bit beyond just being able to play the chord and the tune together. It's a good place to start, but after a while you want to start doing things with it. Now, we've talked about a lot of things that can become our arrangement tools instead of our soloing tools or our changes. Now, the simple tune and chords is perfectly okay to start with, right? I might have made it sound like it's not, but it is. So, see that in your tune, it's great. The only issue with it is once you've done it once, you've done it. So if you do it again, well, okay, that's the repeat. You can get away with the repeat, but then you probably need to finish. Okay, makes for a short tune. That's fine, especially if you've got a lot of students who are playing and you want to have plenty of people playing and lots of time to get it done. Remember, parents want to go home. All right. Anyway, simple tune and chords, perfectly okay to start with. Keep that in mind. But the arrangements get more interesting depending on the variety of sections that you can create. It's really important not to get boring, even if you get flash, right? And you decide you love walking bass and you're going to play 15 choruses of walking bass and soloing over it. It might be exciting for you, bloody hard to do, frankly, but you'll lose your audience because once you go to walking bass, there's nowhere else to go. So you have to vary what you're doing. You always got to vary what you're doing, find other things to do. So keep exploring. Now, I like to get a wee gem going on, and for my one, I actually created it, and it just came out of exactly what I'm saying to you, out of exploring. I really was just playing the tune quite simply. But I came up with this, and it was more just me. So you will find something that suits you more. So you might go in there or you might do more solo. Most of the time when you're playing a jazz standard or a tune for somebody, you're never quite sure until it happens. But there you've already made a statement of some ideas and grabbed some musical interest by pulling them into your story. Now you're going to tell them what the story's about by playing the head for them. Now, you can just play it as we did, or you can do the stride. I think I did that before, but I'll show you what I mean. And all it is, especially with these rootless voicings, great. Drop the down with the left hand and play the root of the chord down low. So for the C minor, play the C and then come up to the, and then for the F, and for the D, G, C. Notice I don't always use all the notes of the chord up here. If you've got the root down there, you don't need to. You've got a bit of pedal on, you need even less. Always think about taking stuff out. Less is more. Can't stress that more than enough either. All right, so get your little wee gem going, and then perhaps you might want to put in a stride. What I do suggest you do in that sort of thing is keep it simple. You know, you don't need all the chord notes and all that type of stuff, but be syncopated. Don't 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can hear what that is, the sound. It pulls it into a completely different genre, completely straighter sound. It's not what we're looking for, and you don't need to make it hard on yourself. All you need to do is just be slightly syncopated. 1, 2, and 3. Just land on the ands. Ands your friend. And you know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You don't need them all. 1, 2, 3. Right? Chop it up, be varied, keep it simple. Lots of glue, dude. Don't feel like you necessarily need to chop the chords up too much. Right? Lots of sustained. Anyway, what I really wanted to show you in this video was a simple two feel. It's a great thing to get into, and again, it really has the same rules of the previous section, which is just keep it varied and keep it syncopated, right? And simple. That's why I call it a simple two feel. Now, we do have some interesting notes that we can use in these chords, but we're not going to. We're actually going to use 1 and 5. Bass players tend to play the 1. You know, that's all right. That's their job. And if you do use bass notes that are too unusual, you might mess with the harmony above. So now we're going to keep it simple. Here's your F minor. Here's your D. Now notice, that's the time where we've used an interesting note. We've used the flat 5. That's great. That's going to give us interest. But now we're going to drop into the 1 for the G7. Now I was at one stage going, because I found it more interesting putting the left. When I put the right against it, it didn't always work having the 7th on the bottom. That comes down to listening to what you do. Sorry, always listen to what you do. All the theory in the world's not going to help you if it doesn't sound good. If it sounds crap, it sounds crap. Change it. Anyway, simple. Notice it's just on the and again. F minor. D. Here's your alt. See, I'm keeping going to that 7. And now the C. Now with the E, with the D flat, I've just 1-5 all the way. I really have been unashamedly boring in that 1-5, but now here we got that flat 5s making it all different for us. And then we've been such good little Vegemite, we can. There we go. Put that on the end. I was supposed to just slot into that perfectly, but thinking of other things. Okay, so once more, here's a two feel. See, you can copy this, change it a bit, but keep those rules in mind. Simple, little varied, and syncopated. Easy chord tones. Type of thing. Now you've got to get it more and more sure in your hand, because as soon as you start thinking, yeah, you probably heard I started thinking, lost the groove a little bit, yeah, and that's the important thing. Okay, so it's harmonic rhythmic variation. Now what I mean by that is instead of going straight from the C minor, you know, so you're soloing on. Now that's what the tune is doing, the chart is telling us to do, but we don't have the luxury of a bass player and a drummer, so we might as well take the luxury of flexibility. Meaning we've got no one else playing with us, so we don't have to change to that chord when we want to, when we don't want to. None of my favourite players stay in the same place a while. Now you're in the F minor. You might come back. Not bother with the E flat. So harmonic variation just means mess with it even more, man. It really does. It just means you don't even have to put the chords in the right order, as long as you're making sense with your story. Now this is
final takeaway from this lesson is this. Now think about your playing in this respect. We are not looking for perfection here. The qualities that we are trying to work at and get and always improve is our groove and our storytelling. Okay, please subscribe. Don't forget to click notifications, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.